Да, мы запустилися. All right. Hello, my dear friends. Operator Starsky here with my brother Serhiy Sumlany. First of all, hello, Serhiy. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. And we're indeed live. We are live on both YouTube channels, Operator Starsky and the European Resilience Initiative Center. And I check if we are live on Twitter. Yes, we're also live on Twitter. So we're multi-streaming exactly as the Ukrainian SBU has multi-streamed drones on the Russian airbase. And that is absolutely amazing. That
Yeah,
multi-streaming of drones is the best thing what happened since years.
absolutely, absolutely. And first of all, my dear friends, I would like to congratulate you with day of creation of military and transport aviation of the Russian Federation, because this is the day they celebrate today. I shit you not, it's on 1st of June. And basically, Ukrainian drones, Ukrainian flying objects congratulated Russians as well, big time. As you probably know, I'm sure that you all already aware of the situation that happened there. Serhiy, I pass the word to you. Tell me what you know, and then I will tell you what I know.
Oh well, what I know, I'm. First of all, I need to stress. I was not involved in this operation. I knew nothing about it. Of course, everyone who is dealing with drones in Ukraine, and I'm in the drone business in Ukraine since almost 3 years, and have good contacts to many drone producers and those units who use drones. I know that Ukrainians are absolutely genius of how to use drones, and drones can be used for all possible missions: search and rescue, bombing, kamikaze, transportation of medicates, recon, observation, and deep strikes, and everything. And I know that Ukrainian units which operate behind the front lines, also deep behind the front lines, like Budanov, the chief of Ukrainian KHUR military intelligence, said in his interview, deeper and deeper. These units also have drones often in their backpacks because it is one of the most efficient weapons to conduct strikes where the strikes need to be conducted. So we know that the Ukrainians used FPV drones for strikes also on Russian military bases, strategic military bases. We know that about 1.5 years ago, 2 years ago maybe, a Russian military base, Shaykovka in Kaluga region, was attacked by Ukrainian FPV drones on a different way. A Ukrainian commander came pretty close to this air base with Mavic drones and their backpack. Mavic drones transformed into bombers and guided the drones to the bombers, and the drones have dropped the bombs. So
Was it,
the idea is
Serhiy,
not new.
was it when they attacked Russian A-50, the Russian AWACS aircraft?
No. A50 was shot down, as far as I understand, with over the Krasnodar area, south to the lake, to the Sea of Azov, with an
No, 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 no,
S-200
no.
missile. But there was
That's
in Belarus. There was in Belarus. Yeah. There was in Belarus one strike. I don't know what they used there in Belarus, but this particular strike I mentioned is a strike with a Mavic drone on Tupolev, I think Tupolev 95 or Tupolev 22 strategic bomber. I don't remember the precise modification. That was the case, and the idea is not new to bring drones, FPV drones, close to an airbase and launch the attack. What is absolutely new is the automatized system, like the drones just flying out of the container, like the bees out of a hive. Like Winnie the Pooh has suddenly dropped a hive from the tree and got attacked by the bees. And the scale of the attack, the distance between the 2 points, Olenivka in the north and Belaya in the east is over 4,000 kilometers. Simultaneously, 4 air bases, destruction of dozens of planes, humiliation of the Russian Empire, and practically the destruction of a half of the functioning strategic bombers, and most of them cannot be replaced because Russia doesn't produce them anymore. We can discuss it all later. But your question was it obvious that this will happen? I would lie if I would say I have not dreamt about it, but I would also lie if I would say I knew it will happen or I could describe how it should have been organized. It's absolutely genius operation, secrecy, scale, success, everything. Only Ukraine could have organized it. Only Ukraine.
Absolutely. Real Kina 84 says, "Cob cages on planes when?" Yeah, I would like to see them myself, because the reason I asked you about that A50, I think that one was hit by an FPV drone as well, or was it like a grenade drop or something like that? Because I remember 2022 or 2023 when this operation took place. The A50, the Russian AWACS airplane, was stationed there. I think it was a grenade drop or something like that when its radar got damaged, and of course it's very hard to restore those radars, considering that we're talking about Russia. So there is another question. Are these 41 aircraft confirmed with imagery? So basically, yeah, I was just showing one of the images that I have. It shows at least 6 aircraft destroyed. They were geolocated. There were more. I actually took just the first one that I could grab from the Telegram channel, because I was preparing this stream very fast and bring it to you guys. So 41 aircraft is reported by the SBU, by the Security Service of Ukraine, and also we already have plenty of those aircraft geolocated on actual footage using the videos that were also provided by the glorious Security Service of Ukraine. Another interesting fact, not only Russians today celebrate the creation, the foundation of their military cargo aviation industry, but also on this very day in 1996, Ukraine gave Russia our strategic bombers. By the way, a lot of those strategic bombers given to Russia by Ukraine in frames of Budapest Memorandum were striking Ukraine. So 29 years later, Ukraine basically takes a bunch of those bombers back because Russians don't need them anymore. What else do we know? We know that first of all, I will show you a video that you guys probably already seen, showing the drone, you know, like hovering over a Russian bomber, like a Ukrainian Falcon over a rooster, you know, before it attacks. And again, that's just one of multiple videos that were released today by the Security Service of Ukraine. That bomber, by the way, looks old. Indeed, because we're talking about Russian superpower, nothing like B-52, guys. Yeah, so Ukraine used AI-guided, AI-powered drones that were trained on the images of the Russian aircraft. It is not Budanov Perfecto, this is General Maluk, that is his responsibility. His mayhem, and those drones were delivered to Russia approximately 1.5 years ago. They were delivered to Russia. From what the SBU told us was that the drones were brought in containers to their launch sites. Before that, when this operation was planned. 150 drones and 300 charges were delivered to the territory of the terrorist federation. There were several launch sites. 116 drones took off and landed on the Russian air bases. One of the most successful attacks was the attack at the terror Russian base Alenia, which is in Murmansk. That is deep north, that is far away. All Ukrainian agents already managed to leave the terrorist federation, and in case terrorist federation announces or states all of a sudden that it caught, ISIS terrorists trained in Ukrainian camps that launched those drones, we will know that it's a lie, obviously. One interesting thing was that the drones that were launched from those containers, from the trucks, not all of them managed to take off. And here, by the way, you can see the containers. This image was provided by the Security Service of Ukraine. Not all of them managed to take off because some of Russian bystanders, when they noticed that the drones are flying out of those containers and trucks, they decided to stop them. Here we can see footage of Russians saving their bombers from Ukrainian drones. So they managed to stop approximately just a handful of those, because 116 landed, and it was really, really effective because, guys, those are tiny FPV drones. They are not like Beaver, they are not like other drones that we use, the long-range drones. They're tiny, which means that you cannot use pretty much anything to intercept them besides the GPS jamming systems. But the problem, not the problem, the feature was that they didn't care, literally, because they were guided by the AI. They were literally striking the Russian bombers that were parked there. So 41 aircraft, as we already know, was destroyed. Russians already stated that Ukraine conducted a terrorist attack on the Russian... why, when Ukraine strikes Russian military targets, they always say that it's a terrorist attack? I think they should change their narrative already. Murmansk, Irkutsk, Ivanovsk, Ryazansk, and Amursk oblasts. So in multiple Russian regions, this amazing attack took place. Also, they say that in Ivanovsk, Ryazansk, and Amursk oblasts, all the attacks were deflected. We know how they were deflected, obviously. So what the Russians say about it? They say that they already conducted their investigation. They say that containers with drones that were used during today's attack contained approximately 50 FPVs that had non-standard construction, and using the popular software, which is an open source software called Mission Planner, they were launched. The Russians also say that, of course, the electronic warfare was active there, but it didn't matter at all. They also say with a surprise that, oh my God, have you seen those videos? The quality is so good. And also they said that apparently the attack took place, the controlling party, the controlling team was located in Ukraine, which I think is not really the case. So what else do they say? One interesting episode is that the containers were stored in a garage, in like a warehouse, that was literally neighboring the Russian FSB office in Chelyabinsk, because Chelyabinsk is a legendary territory. I don't know. Like
Like
who know?
Detroit,
Like
an
Detroit, basically.
FBI office in Detroit.
Yeah. So as of this moment, we can talk about hitting approximately 34% of all Russian strategic carriers of the Russian cruise missiles on their bases. That is all I know. What can be the result of that? So first of all, people were already asking me about the possible Trump's reaction to this. How can Trump react to this strike? I think, guys, don't quote me on that, please, but I think that Trump may come up with idea of providing, some temporary replacement for Russian aviation. Maybe he will bring them like F-16 aircraft, to supplant those that Russians lost. Maybe some B-2 or sorry, B-52 or those Spirit stealth aircraft, because we know that Trump has some sympathy towards Russian terrorists. What do you think about this?
First of all, I want to thank Jay, who has donated to 20 euro on YouTube. Thank you very much for your donation and for your comment. Keep spreading the good news, guys. Thank you for that. But I want to also to bring your attention to the fact that there is a donation link on PayPal and on Bank in the description of this video. And I need to also decide that YouTube charges a lot on the donations. And if you want to donate for drones, and we are raising donations for drones of the 4th Brigade of the National Guard of Ukraine, Rubizh, the brigade where Operator Starsky served his military service, defending Kiev from the Russian invasion in 2022, and before or during the Russian invasion, which we know have started in 2014, not in 2022. So if you want to donate for drones for the legendary Rubizh Brigade, go to the links in the description of this video. There is a PayPal link, and I think a bank data, so you can donate for Rubizh Brigade, and there will be a very little charge, no charge for bank, I guess, and just a very small charge for PayPal. Nothing compared to YouTube charge. And thank you anyway. Thank you that you watch it. Thank you that you commented. And I hope we will have a great evening tonight. And I hope you will also forgive me that I have today, for the first time amid this broadcast with Operator Starsky, I have my glass of whiskey. I think you understand why I have it, because it is a day where one cannot say, I do not celebrate. It is absolutely a great day.
I will join you with coffee, my friend.
Thank you. And I also thought, like, we were talked so often that Russia will strike Kyiv now. Okay, first of all, I don't see any reason why Russia shouldn't strike Kyiv even without attack on Russian strategic aviation, because I'm in Kyiv now, and we have air raids every night practically, with ballistic missiles, with drones, with all the flying objects Russia can send to us since years and years. And Russia never needed any reason to strike Kyiv. Second, if Russia wants to send cruise missiles now on Kyiv, Russia has just 50% of the functioning strategic bombers to launch their cruise missiles. So the chances of being hit are less. But people say, yeah, they can be Areshnik, they can be that sheet or that sheet. Well, then I say, if I need to die tonight, at least I will have fun with a great friend, Operator Starsky, discussing the things on YouTube and with my glass of whiskey. But jokes aside, regarding this operation, I need to add a couple of words to wonderful information which Operator Starsky has shared with you already. And I can say that why are these strategic bombers so important? Practically, the only real advantage of Russia against Ukraine in this war is the ability to strike any city in Ukraine on the whole territory of Ukraine with cruise missiles and ballistic missiles. The most missiles which fly against Ukraine are cruise missiles, and there are only two platforms which can, or two types of platforms which can fire them. This is on one hand the Black Sea Fleet, which we know is not existing anymore. The Black Sea Fleet was used as a launching platform for Caliber missiles, and Russian strategic bombers. And the Russian strategic bombers have practically three types of planes. Tupolev 95 Bear, Tupolev 160 Blackjack, I think Blackjack, and Tupolev 22 Backfire. So these three types of bombers are the only strategic bombers Russia has. And Tupolev 160 and Tupolev 22 are jet bombers, and 160 and 22 are supersonic bombers. And Tupolev 95 is a four-engine turbopropeller bomber. And the most of the bombers which have been destroyed now look to be the Tupolev 95. Why is it so significant? First of all, let us remember what is Tupolev 95 is. Tupolev 95 is one of the oldest planes which are flying now worldwide. It was created in 1955. And the last piece was produced, if I'm not mistaken, in 1992. There are no such bombers being produced anymore. Anyway, from these three types, only Tupolev 160 is still in production in Russia. And in 2018, the Russians set a program of producing 10 new Tupolev 160 until 2027. By now, they have produced only one. So the tempo is pretty low, but Tupolev 160, they still can produce it. So what is important now? The Tupolev 95, this four-engine, this turbopropeller, is slow but can carry hell of a lot of missiles. The engines in each of these ports is NK12. NK12 is Nikolai Kuznetsov 12. Nikolai Kuznetsov is the chief designer, who was not a real chief designer of the engine, because the real chief designer of the engine in 1950s was a Austrian-German guy, a Nazi, colonel of SS, Ferdinand Brandner. And Ferdinand Brandner was a designer of engines in the Nazi Reich under Hitler, and he designed engines for German planes. After the World War II, he decided to go to the Soviets. He was not forced to work for the Soviets, as many of German engineers were. He decided to go to the Soviets because he loved this totalitarian style. And he has created this engine, NK12, which is until now, if I'm not mistaken, the most powerful turboprop engine in the world. Because the plane is so heavy and so big, only such monstrous engines can bring it to flight. So now this bomber flies with hell of a lot of missiles and can fire them, a lot. Why they need to fire a lot of missiles? Because many of these missiles malfunction. That's why they launch the missiles over the Caspian Lake. Because they know when the missile malfunctions, it just drops into the lake, like it will be poisoned, the fish will die, who cares? But some of missiles will come to Ukraine. So when Ukraine destroys these strategic bombers, Ukraine practically reduces dramatically the Russian chances to mass launch missiles on Ukraine. And coming back to the Brandner, after he was released from the Soviet Union, he went to Egypt, where he tried to create an Egyptian jet to kill Jews in Israel. And after that, he went to China to work for communist dictators. So the guy really loved all this scam of the world and worked for them. And he's dead already, but his creation continues to kill people. So now Ukraine has destroyed these bombers en masse, and that's a good sign. And the last thing, this genius character of the operation, which operator Starsky has already mentioned, how Ukrainians have smuggled the drones to Russia. They did it via Kazakhstan. And that's a not surprise for anyone who understands how Russia obtains the drone parts, because Russia is banned from delivery of electronics from most of the countries. So they smuggle them via neighboring countries, which are a part of so-called Eurasian Economic Union, a sort of Russian economic dominance zone. And Russia brings a lot of goods via Kazakhstan, and also goods from China come sometimes via Kazakhstan. So when drones came via Kazakhstan, nobody was surprised. So Russia's attempts to evade sanctions did play against the Russians. The Russians have outsmarted themselves, so to say. And now that these drones have hit them, but it is we can discuss this operation for hours and hours. It is so good, so good. Just think about this video signal being sent via mobile phone SIM cards, and operators sitting in thousands of kilometers away from the drone, operating the drone via Starlink. Just amazing, just amazing. And just imagine the Russian soldiers who had to observe silently how their military bases get evaporated by these dozen drones, and these Russians who try to stop it. I need to add here a bit. This is exactly the case showing that the normal Russians, the average Russians, they are actually on the side of their army. Because look, this is a military base from where strategic bombers come day by day to kill Ukrainian civilians. And this base get eliminated. Not civilians get eliminated, not some city where like people can gather, etc. No, purely genocidal military base. And these average Russian truck drivers said, "Oh, we must save our strategic bombers. Let us stop drones with bare hands. We can sacrifice our life for the glory of Vladimir Putin." That is insane. That is really insane.
Absolutely, my friend. One thing that I wanted to add, because people already say that in the comments, at this very moment, I have a map here. At this very moment, another massive strike takes place. You can see approximate directions of drones coming to Russia at this very moment. Lipetsk air base, Russian air base of the nuclear submarines in Severomorsk, Voronezh, all of them are receiving new gifts via the airmail Ukraine. I think that, again, someone in the comments posted that Ukrposhta, Ukrainian post service, will probably make another, like a bunch of postmarks dedicated to this amazing day. So Russians say that there is a lot of alarms. Also in Rostov, a lot of air alerts all over the terrorist federation, explosions in Voronezh, in Bryansk, Russians destroyed their own bridge just in case, Kursk, drones coming to Kursk, and Lipetsk. In Lipetsk, the Russian airbase is being hit once again. Well, Ukraine collected quite a few drones nowadays, and Ukraine obviously has no storage left for them, so we have to use them all at once, which I think, will not only strike the Russian morale, not only strike the Russian capabilities of the Russian Air Force, but most likely bring some cards to the Ukraine table during the negotiations, because There is negotiations preparing in Istanbul. Again, Russians brought some kind of like random people, like advisors of ministers, brother of a cousin, of a brother of a friend, and I think now nobody will say that Ukraine has absolutely no cards, because this is a single operation. I remember I cannot remember all the operations that were prepared by the security service of Ukraine on the territory of the terrorist federation. But we also have information. Ukrainian drones are flying to the Moscow Oblast, to Voronezh, to Tula, Belgorod, Kursk. In Lipetsk, already 10 explosions were recorded, at least, and the Kombinat and LMK. Oh my God, how to translate
It's
it?
Lipetsk metal factory, a huge one.
Yeah, so that one was also hit. I can see multiple videos from Rostov. I don't think that YouTube will like if I show it here, but trust my word. Okay, trust my word.
But
And
what I can add here on spot, this is how a drone looks like. This is a 10-inch drone, which can be used for everything practically, from transporting medikits, making observation missions, search and rescue, delivering things you need to deliver where you need them to get delivered. And here, like, you install a battery on the top and connect the battery to the connection cable. You see, it's a Ukrainian German production. That's why it's blue and yellow and schwarz-rot-gold. And of course, you need to add propellers, etc. They are dismantled for storage purpose. You have antenna, like for video transmission signal and for steering signal. And that is exactly the drone which Ukrainians use pretty often for all missions. It is like what I have in my hands is not armed, of course. It's a purely peaceful, educational drone, I must say, and humanitarian drone. And these drones are exactly the drones like the Rubizh Brigade needs from us. And there are, once again, and I will be happy if you, Andriy, confirm it, that it is our joint campaign for the Rubizh Brigade, where you have served. Rubizh Brigade wants these drones, wants our drones. We can produce a lot of these drones for them to save Ukrainian lives, to go all missions they need to fly to save Ukrainian lives. And such a beautiful drone can fly their mission in Ukraine, protecting Ukraine, saving Ukrainian lives. But you have, on this composition, you also have an idea how a drone could look like, which have made so much buzz today over the Russian heads, because after all drones look more or less the same. They made out of the same concept, and this is an important thing. These drones are quadrocopters, FPV quadrocopters. And that means that FPV, that means first-person view. That means that the pilot sees everything which the drone sees through the camera here. And the pilot has the goggles, or like look from the screen on the what camera transmits. And this is exactly the difference between what Ukrainians used today on the airfields and what Ukrainians are using now on like LMK, this metallurgy factory, etc. Because when we talk about the deep strikes, we oops, am I on?
yeah,
Can one see
you're
me?
on. Yeah.
Okay, because I like my YouTube has dropped off. Okay. I cannot see it anymore, but I think it's okay. So when we talk about deep strikes, we need to separate between deep strikes when a drone flies all the way from Ukraine to the target, and that is not possible to make with any FPV drone, of course, with quadrocopter. It's made by long-range strikes with winged drones. Or we can talk about the strikes which we have seen today, when the short distance, like 5 kilometers, 15 kilometers, 20 kilometers, drones, quadrocopters, start from some object. Once again, it's not our drones. We have never produced drones which were used today by the strikes. We are not allowed for that. We have not license for that. And of course, we would never raise donations for such a terrible thing. But if you want to supply Rubizh Brigade with drones which can save lives of this composition, find the link in the commentary section and do it. And I have also questions here from Cyrilla von Sintra, who is a general of European Resilience, and our constant donor and supporter, Sergey. Wie geht es dir? Es geht mir gut, danke. I'm fine. And kam meine Spende für Starskys ehemalige Einheit an? If my donation for Starskys unit has arrived? Yes, it has arrived. It will be used very soon, because now we are preparing the first huge batch of drones for the Rubizh Brigade, and you will be informed. And I remember the song Master of Puppets. It will be on your drone, I guarantee.
One of my favorite songs, by the way.
That's a good news. So there will be a drone with Master of Puppets song on it.
Absolutely. I have several of their songs on my playlist. Usually in the car, I listen to Fuel and I listen to Master of Puppets. It's fantastic. And Enter the Sandman. So I can also confirm this. I would like to refer the question first in the commentary, who is the guest. So, my dear friends, those who are watching us right now, Serhiy Sumleny is chief of European Resilience Initiative Center, which is a foundation that helps Ukraine in any way possible, not only Ukraine. Generally, we are aimed at defending democracy in Europe, but because Europe does need resilience, and a lot of it nowadays. Also, Serhiy himself helps deliver drones to numerous Ukrainian units. I think Serhiy already covered like big chunk of the front line, if not all of it, with the drones that were delivered from him and on behalf of the European Resilience Initiative Center. And also European Resilience Initiative Center helps fundraise for the drones that will be delivered to my brigade. Already there is, as Serhiy said, there is a big package of drones basically on its way. And Rubizh 4th Operative Brigade of the National Guard, place where I served since 2016, almost 8 years of my life passed there, and those guys, I'm still helping them, still trying to help them with the fundraisers, and Serhiy helps us as well. I know this the command of the brigade very, very well, because current commander of the brigade, Colonel Sidorian, was my commander of my infantry company when he was a captain, basically, back in those days. And I was in his infantry company, which was the first infantry company in the brigade. We were the basis, the foundation of it, and I am privileged to have served in this very infantry company and had my first deployment in there. So a lot of good, not very good, sometimes sad, but primarily good memories related to that. So I try to keep helping my guys, and I'm very, very happy that Serhiy is here with us. You are in Kyiv, right?
Yes, I'm in Kyiv now. I spend most of my time in Kyiv and traveling from Kyiv to the front, to the northeast, east, southeast. I've been 3 days ago to Slavyansk and Kramatorsk, that direction, delivering drones for the Azov Brigade. And once again, we are now about to deliver a large package of drones for the Rubizh Brigade, where you have served. We also have very good connections to the 225th a separate assault regiment, recently promoted from a separate assault battalion to a regiment, one of the best units which participated in the operation in Kursk Oblast and now protecting Sumy from the Russian offensive. Also 47th Mechanized Brigade, etc., etc. Achilles battalion recently promoted to a 429th regiment, and so on and so on. So practically, if you have a great unit in mind, you can be sure that we have somehow supported this unit either with FPV drones or with Mavic drones or with generators, trucks, etc. 93rd Brigade Holodny Yar, 505 separate battalion, not separate, 505 battalion of the Marines, 501 battalion of the Marines, etc., etc. So you can be sure we also we always ask the unit what kind of drones they need. It's not like we have our drones and you get it if you want. If you don't like them, it's not our problem. No, it's quite the opposite. We always ask the unit what kind of drones they want, what kind of equipment they want on these drones, the size of the drone, the capacity of the battery, the camera, the radio transmitter. Do they have just one frequency they work on, or switching frequency in the case when Russians have a very intense electronic warfare, and so I never thought that I will do this thing. I'm not a technician guy at all. I was educated as a journalist, and then I wrote my PhD in political science on how democracies appear, how a totalitarian regime can be transformed into democracy. I have my master in law, in competition law and international law. So nothing regarding the drones, but as any sane person since several years, I know that there are things when international law and negotiations and persuasion and communication just doesn't work, and you need to support the country which defends itself against an unprovoked aggression with what this country needs, and that is what I proudly do, and I'm happy to stay with the Ukrainians, to stand with Ukraine, to stand on the side of Ukraine. But actually, Andriy, what I wanted to ask you, and it's a serious question, what do you think? Will the chief commander of the Russian air defense, or maybe Russian strategic air force, or whatever, will they get invited for a sightseeing of Putin's window, or will they be invited for a tea?
I think both can happen. It's either or. But I think they must start to like heavy metal, because heavy metals are very popular in Russia. They're very popular when they want to remove people who know too much or did too little to prevent things like happened today. I have several more updates. The Mossad actually congratulated Ukraine. They admitted that the operation spider web that took place today on the territory of the Terror Russian Federation was much cooler than the Israeli Operation Pager, which I think maybe BBC says that Maluk and General Maluk and his team did amazing job. Donald Trump and his administration were not notified about the upcoming attack on the Russian airfields, according to the White House. They told this in their interview for Fox News, which, in my opinion, is literally the reason why this operation was a success. Because don't get me wrong, but I think that this is probably like the least. The latest person that we would like to tell our plans. So what else do we have? Oh my god, I already have like 1,000 memes here in my
There are
uh
on Ukrainian Twitter and on Ukrainian Facebook. There are now journalists from the leading media who just post, guys, we cannot observe and catalogize all the memes. Here is a link. Send us the memes because we cannot have an overview. And I have seen them all, like with, or most of them, absolutely hilarious. Like starting with very aggressive ones to very fun ones. I'm pretty sure you have your own favorite memes, and I'm waiting for a stamp, for a post stamp of Ukrposhta, of Ukrainian Post, with some Russian strategic bomber burning, or this famous frame from the hunt for the Red October. Comrade, have you lost another submarine? I think there will be a lot of them, and it is an operation which should be in every textbook for the military planning. I cannot, like, I have read today comparisons, like with Pearl Harbor, for example. And I say, no, it's not Pearl Harbor. Absolutely not. Just think about it in a perspective. Pearl Harbor was an act of aggression against a peaceful country. This is not. This is an act of defense. Pearl Harbor didn't destroy American ability to operate on the sea. This act has significantly reduced Russia's ability. The vessels which have been destroyed in Pearl Harbor could have easily been replaced by the new one because the shipyards in the U.S. have not been hit. And now it is the quite opposite situation. As I said before, Russia cannot replace these bombers because Tupolev 95 and Tupolev 22 are not get produced anymore, and Tupolev 160s get produced by numbers like one plane by in 5 years. So it's absolutely different. And Pearl Harbor led, after all, to defeat of Japan, because it mobilized the American nation and brought the Americans into war against Japan. That's why Admiral Yamamoto was against that strike. But here we see that Russia's capacities have been significantly reduced. So I would say I don't know if there is any battle or any mission in the history of the humankind which can be compared to this operation. But I tell you, there is one very famous battle which we all know very well and which suits perfectly, and this is a battle at Yavin. Episode 4, Star Wars, Destruction of the Death Star. And you say, yeah, it's Hollywood, how can you compare it? But think about it in the context. The destruction of the Death Star was an act provided by an underdog with very few resources, and actually hitting the huge object, the huge battle station, which had one only reason to exist, to be a genocidal weapon of terror. The Death Star was designed in this universe far, far away, long time ago, uh, as an ultimate mean against the rebellions, any rebellion. Because the Empire said practically, you can defeat us on a planet and you can control the planet. It will not bring you anything because we will blow up your planet. So there is no sense in any resistance because you will be killed anyway. And that is a very Russian way of thinking, because Russians are better destroy things than let them go. Look at Bakhmut, look at Mariupol, look at Marinka, look at any city which Russians cannot control. They better destroy it, erase it, than leave it alone. So the Death Star is a very Russian way of thinking. And the rebels have destroyed the Death Star with a squad of fighters with one proton torpedo, with a lot of luck, and uh, and they did it, and they destroyed the Death Star. It wasn't the end of the war. The Empire, as we know, strikes back in the episode 5, but it was the start of the end of the Empire. And I think the destruction of the Russian genocidal terror weapon, the strategic bombers, which could hit Ukrainian territory, remaining unpunished, shooting missiles from a safe distance without any problem, without any fear. The destruction of this weapon, and Russia cannot replace this weapon by anything, is very similar to the win of the victory of the rebels in the Battle of Yavin. That's why I would personally compare it to that episode, despite the fact that it is a Hollywood fantasy, and we know that Hollywood has a lot of fantasies which have no relation to the reality, like all the stories about brave American president who stays for freedom. Okay, I wish we had one, but we don't. But this very battle, Ukrainians have made it true.
I completely agree with you. Just to remind you, my friends, we have an ongoing attack of Ukrainian flying objects that are flying towards Kursk, Voronezh, Lipetsk, Tula, Belgorod, and Moskovskaya Oblast. We have reports of numerous explosions that are taking place there, and all this happened already after the big attack on numerous Russian air bases that took place today. Russians losing 41 aircraft, according to the Security Service of Ukraine. Plenty of those aircraft already were confirmed and geolocated using the video footage that was provided in beautiful, maybe not 4K, but full HD by the operators of the Security Service of Ukraine. And you know, in the comments, we had a comment from It Wasn't Me who said that apparently comparison to Pearl Harbor was more like Russian propaganda, and I completely agree, because guys, don't compare Ukraine to the evil axis of the World War II. It's wrong. We all know the evil axis of the World War II, and by the way, Russia was, if you remember history and Pact of Molotov-Ribbentrop, Soviet Russia was basically the ally of Nazi Germany. Stalin was allied with Hitler, and they even had mutual military parades, like the one that took place in 1939 in the occupied Polish city of Brest, where Soviet troops were saluting Nazi flag and marching together with Nazi Germans. You can find it yourself on Google. Just Google German Soviet Parade 1939. You will see it yourself. I would compare Ukraine, I would compare Ukraine to United Kingdom in the times of the World War II, because currently Ukraine is going through absolutely the same. Ukraine is being the primary target of this horrible attack. Ukraine is fighting with good spirit, with good wit, and just like British people in the times of the World War II, Ukraine doesn't give a damn. We will win this war, and we know it for sure. Russia literally has absolutely no chance. Ukraine was predicted to fall in between 2 days and 2 weeks by different imbeciles, and those imbeciles, to my surprise, are still talking in the social media, and they still have plenty of subscribers. But Sergey, I wanted to ask you a different thing about the situation in Sumy. I know that you have people on the ground there that can tell a bit more about it.
Well, it is not easy. It is not easy, and I personally I visit Sumy regularly. I go to Sumy like every 2 months, and I also personally connected to Sumy. I have friends from Sumy. I love this city, and Sumy is for me is a sort of a very symptomatic city for Ukraine. It is full of history, of Cossack history, of industry history. It was a center of sugar production back in 19th century. And if you travel a lot through Sumy region on bicycle like me, I'm a passionate biker, cyclist. You will see a lot of villages from the 19th century built exclusively out of bricks, which is untypical for this area. But in the Sumy region, people were so rich that there were practically no wooden houses in villages in the 19th century. And churches are of huge size, like absolutely super dimensional for the size of the settlement, because yeah, it was practically a sort of Ukrainian Dubai, with sugar production. And I went like through the whole story of Kursk incursion. I've been to Ukraine occupied Russian territory in Kursk Oblast twice. And my last visit there was in December, on Christmas 24. It was practically one of the last days when you could get there and without severe risk to be killed. And after that, the Russians have taken practically control of the sky with their optic fiber drones, and have endangered Ukrainian logistics dramatically. So after that, the pullback of the Ukrainian troops started. The Russians have spread a lot of lies back then. Just remember that lie of encirclement of 5,000 Ukrainian soldiers. Poor lie. Donald Trump has repeated that lie, and we know that no Ukrainian soldiers have been encircled there. But the retreat of the Ukrainian troops was pretty fast. The Ukrainians have lost pretty much of equipment because of the speed of that retreat. And now the Russians control about 140 square kilometers of Sumy Oblast already. And here we come to a very important and dangerous development, because um, the bad situation for the Ukrainians, or a dangerous situation in not only in Sumy but in Kharkiv as well, is that these cities are being located very close to the border. Like Kharkiv, 40 kilometers direct line to the border. Sumy even less, like 35 kilometers. That means that any invasion of the Russians bring their troops so close to the city that the Russians can start to shell the city with artillery or use drones against the city. And the Russians do it because they kill civilians indiscriminately. We know in the city of Kherson, in the south of Ukraine, the Russians have a sort of their sick fun, what they call human safari. They deliberately hunt civilians with drones. They hunt children, they hunt elderly, they attack buses, they attack ambulances, etc., etc. And they like it because it's an evil psychology. They just love to violate any human law. And in Sumy, they are about to start the same. So now the Russians are approaching the village of Yunakiivka, which is practically a hub on this road to Suja. And Yunakiivka is located on sort of a hill. And if they take Yunakiivka, they will have a straight line to Sumy with a full control over radio frequencies, or if they use optic fiber drones, it's even better for them. And they can start to terrorize the city of Sumy, which they will certainly do. So that's why we raise now donations not only for the 4th Brigade of Andrei, and the links are in the description of this video, but also for the 225th Battalion, already regiment of the Ukrainian army. And drones are highly needed. And please, 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 I really beg you, your money can change life and save life of a person, and your money can really decide. It's not about like you donate like some huge amount of money. Every donation, each donation is important, and a drone can save a life. And that is important to understand. When you donate like 20 euro, 50 euro, 100 euro, 500 euro, depending on how much money you can send for this purpose, you practically you save a human life. And it is not what you have or I have everyday life can say that, okay, I saved a human life. It's a really important thing.
Yes, my friend, thank you so much for supporting my brigade, by the way. This is, something I never really prepared to, because I know Sergey several, 1 year, definitely. At least 1 year, personally, like when we met. I know you from the internet.
We met on 15th March 2023,
Last year.
I guess.
You think?
Yeah, I think we met in Berlin during the live broadcasting.
2024.
And it was 2024. Yeah, it was 2024. You're right,
Yeah.
2024. Like a little bit than 1 year.
Yeah, but before that, I was subscribed to you on Twitter. I followed you through Jonathan thing, and I know you personally about a year, even more. But what I didn't know was that you were supporting my brigade as well, because my brigade works with different volunteers, and then through our mutual friends, it turned out that he was not only delivering drones to other units, but also to my brigade. And all of a sudden, oh my God, we gotta join efforts. And I'm really, really happy that we are working together on that, because our guys are doing amazing job there at this very moment. And I really, really appreciate what you do personally. I wanted to ask you another question. This strike today, how do you think, will it have any influence, any impact on those negotiations in Istanbul?
Oh, yes, of course. And I think it was really very clever to have this strike today, before the 1 day before the negotiations. Because look, what was Russia's position during the last turn, the last round of the negotiations? Russia's position was, we are strong. We can do whatever we want. We have whatever time we need. And if you do not accept our terms, it will be worse for you. The Russian chief negotiator Medinsky, that plagiating, I will spare the words, this guy, he literally said to the Ukrainians, we now demand 5 of your regions, and if you say no, I will just add 2 on top, 2 more on top for each time you say no. And they added that, be sure, and then I quote, be sure that many of you sitting at this table will lose your dear ones until the next round of the negotiations. And that is the style of negotiation of a mobster. It is like, for each of your no, I will do that and that on you. That was not negotiation. That was blackmailing, threatening, terror. And now the Ukrainian delegation can say, okay, you talk some more of that bullshit, and we will eliminate your Pacific fleet. Or maybe the next half of your nuclear strategic bombers, or maybe your nuclear submarines, or maybe your power system, or maybe something else. Russia's position was based also internationally, not only relating to Ukraine. Russia demonstrated to other significant players like the US, Donald Trump, but also the EU and national leaders in the EU. Look, Ukraine is stupid. Ukraine is bold. Ukraine is childish. Ukraine doesn't understand the world we live in. We have the power. Ukraine does not have the power. What may Ukraine demand from us? Ukraine must accept what we give them. a half of their country. They should be thankful to us. They should say thank you because we have taken only half of their land. And now Russia appears very weak. Russia cannot say, yeah, Ukraine must do that and that because otherwise we will what? With what bombers? You are so weak you cannot protect your own sacred nuclear triad element against Ukrainian drones. Ukrainian drone operators fly their drones like in a computer game, just knocking out one plane by another. Russia says like Ukraine is a terrorist state, they attack that and that. If Ukraine would have been a terrorist state, Ukraine would have released these drones on some chemical plant in Moscow, creating a chemical disaster, or attacking some football game, like some soccer game in a stadium, like letting dozens of drones armed with shrapnel just destroy thousands and thousands of people on the viewers' seats, creating panic and bloodbath somewhere in Novosibirsk or Nalchik or Petersburg. No, the Ukrainians have taken the most military target one can ever imagine: strategic bombers on a military airbase, not an airport, not a railway station, not an energy like power plant, not a refinery, a military strategic airbase. And that is amazing because if Russia cannot protect the most holy part of their national ideology, and that is a part of their national ideology, we are a nuclear superpower. Russia indeed has the largest number of warheads worldwide, more than the US, and I guess maybe even more than all countries combined altogether, or at least comparably that much. And they could not defend their own strategic bombers. Now they appear weak. I think that the Ukrainians should just silently listen to the Russians and then smile and get out of the room to make the Russians to leave the Russians in fear, because the Russians don't know what has just happened. Maybe the Ukrainians have launched another attack right now and they know it and we don't know it. What is the, like, as Donald Trump said, you don't have cards. Oh, Ukraine has cards, and Ukraine has demonstrated these cards right now, and I think it's only the beginning.
We have a good commentary. So the first Ukrainian aircraft carriers are Kamaz trucks. 100%. To think about it, of course, yeah. I have a tiny image showing how exactly will tonight's launch of Russian strategic bombers will look like, approximately like that. Again, there is so many memes already being created in the Ukrainian internet, which is absolutely fantastic. I have another question for you, my friend, because it was asked in the chat over and over again. What do you drink specifically?
Me?
Yeah, right now.
In this glass, I have a Georgian mineral water Nabiglavi. That's my favorite one. And I prefer Nabiglavi over Borjomi because Borjomi belongs to a Russian Putin-friendly oligarch, as far as I know, and Nabiglavi does not. So I buy Nabiglavi in Kiev. It's a pretty salty mineral water, heavily carbonated, pretty salty one. It's not like soda with gas. It's more strong taste. Not everyone likes it, but I personally like it, and I do a lot of physical exercise. I like drinking salty water after that. And in another glass is this Bomor, I hope I pronounce it correctly, whiskey, which I like for its very smoky taste. Someone says it reminds me maybe the smell of boots in a boot camp. I say, no, it's not that. What? But sometimes I think maybe it is. Anyway, I like this. I like this taste. I like this smoke, and today is a good day to drink it.
Absolutely. We have several more questions. Dom Trump asks, so what exactly is Bannon's reason for bitching about Ukraine? Literally, I think a reason of being an imbecile. It explains a lot, usually. Guys, do you think this may create a palace coup in Moscow? Apparently, I don't know. How do you think?
That was exactly a topic we have discussed with Maxim Proskurov from the 4th Brigade, Rubizh, just half an hour before this broadcasting. Because Maxim said it's a great news that the strategic bombers have been decimated, but we don't know what will be the movement after that. And I understand him. And of course, those who say worldwide that, oh, now Russia will have to retaliate, it's bullshit. It's bullshit because Russia never needed a reason to strike Ukraine, to kill Ukrainian civilians, to execute Ukrainian prisoners of war, to blow up Kakhovka Dam, causing the largest ecological disaster and flooding of huge region, to striking nuclear power plants like Chernobyl one, to hijacking another nuclear power plant in Zaporizhia, and. So Russia never needed an excuse for doing things which are absolutely against the international law. So when Russia would strike Kiev with Oreshnik tonight or next day, Russia has already hit Dnipro with Oreshnik, right? Did Ukraine hit Russian strategic air bases before Russia has hit Dnipro with Oreshnik? No. Russia just wanted to show the world, look, I have a huge flying thing which I can throw at you. So there is no need for Russia to be provoked or pushed or whatever, because Russia always fights at the top of their capacities. The Western concept of Russia may not be provoked, it will lead to escalation, based on a false presumption that Russia restricts themselves somehow, that Russia fights with one hand tied. It's not the case. Russia always uses all chances they have and all technical capacities they have. So I don't think that even if Russia strikes Kiev harshly next hours or days, this would be a consequence of today's Ukrainian strike, because we have already experienced 250 missiles against Kiev, or 350 missiles and drones against Kiev, and so on and so on. So there is no difference. It will just happen. So, but another thing we need to understand is that despite this fact, Putin needs to somehow explain himself towards his own army. I would not say we need to overestimate this need. It is not a huge need. Those who think that Putin needs constantly to explain himself to the army, they are wrong. Putin has created pretty strong tool where people can say, "Oh, we're not happy with what he's doing. We would have done it differently, but he's our president. He's the only one. Who else could have substitute him? We need to carry on." When you read the commentaries in the Russian Telegram channels and Russian military commentaries, they all say, "Oh, now we need to strike Bankova, Kiev, central Kiev. We need to bomb Ukraine. We need to do that and that." Okay, you're doing it all the time long. But let me formulate it differently. What could be Russia's solution to the problem? Starting from today, Russia has officially started to lose this war. Because what we have observed before was, yeah, maybe you can interpret this development that way, maybe that way. The Ukrainians didn't capitulate during the last 3 years, but we don't know what will happen next. The Ukrainians have invaded Kursk Oblast. Now they have been pulled back. Russians cannot win Slovyansk, but they are advancing, etc., etc. So it was a room for interpretations. But now we clearly see that Ukraine may conduct the level of operations in Russia which Russia cannot conduct in Ukraine. And that is the difference. For the first time, Ukraine has conducted an operation in Russia which Russia cannot conduct in Ukraine. Russia could strike Ukraine with drones and missiles. Ukraine could strike Russia with drones and missiles on a lower scale, but still, there was no dramatic difference. But Russia wants to destroy every single F-16 plane in Ukrainian hands, and they cannot. Russia wants to destroy Ukrainian logistic hubs, and it cannot. And Ukraine does it. Ukraine can do it. So the world has seen that Ukraine is capable technically and mentally and I would say on the level of strategic planning, military planning, Ukraine is capable of performing things which Russia cannot perform. Ukrainian military capacities are higher than the Russians. And the only Russian advantage is the vast number of old Soviet equipment, which they still possess, and the vast number of low quality soldiers, which they are ready to sacrifice. But militarily, Ukraine is better, and strategically, Ukraine is winning this war. That is the very important turning point. That's why I think the 1st June will be marked exactly as several battles in World War II, like Midway, El Alamein, Kursk, Stalingrad, maybe, which were by far not the defeat of the Nazi Reich, or the Axis, but they were the start of this fall, of this decline. After that, you can be successful in the Ardennes as a Nazi general, but even if you can beat the Americans in the Ardennes forest, you will not win the war. The war is lost already. So that is what happened now. So for the Russian elite, the question appears, and now I come back to your question, Andrei. I'm sorry for being that long. I'm not sure if it is Bomor whiskey, which is speaking inside of me, or the complexity of your question. Because, like, if you ask, can Putin be replaced? An idiot can say yes or no, or I don't know, or maybe. But a real answer should be more nuanced. And this is one of ways of getting out of this dilemma, how to end this war without losing everything. Because the next step after this defeat, not tomorrow, not in 2-3 months, not maybe in 6 months, maybe in 2 years, is a total military defeat of Russia. Maybe civil war, maybe devastation, maybe partition of the country, maybe occupation, we don't know, but a total military defeat of Russia. Are the Russians ready for that? No. Do they want it? No. Do they want to get out of this scenario? Yes. How can they get out of this scenario without replacing Putin? There is no way, because Putin will fight this war until the last Russian and the last North Korean and the last Chinese, etc. Whoever he will have in his disposal, under his control. So for those Russian elites who want to save Russia, and I do not speak only about the hawks and the Silovikis, the military guys, the FSB guys, etc. Also the liberal economists like the Skudrin group, or also liberal opposition who are also imperialists after all. They also are interested in preservation of Greater Russia and increase of Russian imperialistic influence. For them, a very logical way out of this misery is replacing of Vladimir Putin by someone else. So they could blame Putin, dead or alive, for everything bad what happened. So they could say it was Putin, it wasn't us, it wasn't Russia, it was Putin. It were not generals, it were Putin. It were not soldiers, it were Putin. It were not Russian propagandists, it were Putin. And then they will say, okay, we have replaced Putin. We can even give you Donbas back, take it back, totally destroyed. Crimea is another question. It's a sacred thing for us. Let us postpone it. But everyone in the West will be happy because the war is over and there is no fighting more. There is no nuclear dictator running around through the village with his naked nuke and threatening everyone. And they would say, okay, maybe it's a good solution. And for these elites, the replacement of Putin is a good thing. But the question is, the real question is, how much independent are they? And how much fear-free are they? Because if they are so much terrorized and frightened that they cannot act or they cannot trust each other, because for a conspiracy, you need conspirers. You cannot conspire alone, okay? Because in that case, you are a lone wolf. You can be an assassin, but not a successful conspirer. So we don't know how strong they are. We don't know how infiltrated they are. We don't know how frightened they are. So the answer, after all, is I think that the replacement of Vladimir Putin by someone else, the probability, the chance of that has increased after today's attack. If this would happen, I still think that the probability is low. It is not zero, but it is low.
I agree with you, my friend. I would like to answer some questions. Speaking of Russian elites, of course, it's a big question because, first of all, good point in the chat, replace Putin with who? And the Russians are not really prepared to hold democratic elections because they don't know, like, why do they even need that, but we will talk about it a bit later. Meanwhile, I would like to also mention the reason why Russian, let's say, secret operations on the territory of Ukraine suck compared to Ukrainian secret operations on the Russian territory is literally because when they consider striking or destroying some strategic Ukrainian facilities, of course, they rely on their long-range weapons. Big time, their cruise missiles, their ballistic missiles, their drones, and then dancing barefoot, we already answered that question, the whiskey. We know that Russians conduct some specific types of operations on the territory of Ukraine, which involve basically recruiting teenagers for money, bringing them or supplying them or making them make their own bomb, and basically turning those Ukrainian teenagers into suicide bombers. That is something that they do, basically copy-pasting ISIS big time, in my opinion. But speaking of such level of operations, of course, they suck. Their surveillance, their intelligence might be good in this regard. The demoralizing operations, like I mentioned above, they can also conduct. I remember the operations they conducted during the very, very first days of the Russian invasion, when those suspicious markers were deployed everywhere on the streets, on the buildings, spreading panics among the population, the law enforcement as well. I know because we saw that and we were alarmed all the time. But speaking of some serious strikes, like it happened today in Russia, Russians are not capable. And they will not be capable of using their long-range missiles on the same level as previously, because now their capacity has decreased big time after today's successful strike. I would like to address several more questions from Jeff Alley. Is there any more words on the submarine base that was on fire? We are currently trying to learn more details. We know that the nuclear submarine base in Severomorsk was attacked, and according to footage, there were plumes of black smoke seen over that base. What about that bridge? Question from Patricia. The bridge is on the menu, I would say, because if Ukraine or when Ukraine receives the Taurus missiles, that is enough capacity to do some serious damage to this bridge. I talked about it previously. Of course, HIMARS can be used to strike targets like the Crimean bridge, but first of all, it lacks the range a bit, and second of all, the charge itself, because the missiles that are used in HIMARS, even ATACMS missiles, are not that capable. And if we're talking about Crimean bridge, it requires a more massive warhead to cause some damage. We're talking about an equivalent of like Tomahawk missile or something like Taurus missile. That one is big. It carries almost 500 kilograms of explosives, and that is enough to cause some damage. Generally, it's very, very hard to destroy, and I'm saying this over and over again because people keep asking this question, but humankind knows how to build bridges, and Russians, they know how to build bridges, bad bridges, the bridges that suck, but they still know a bit about building them. And I personally saw multiple times different bridges that were hit by large caliber mortar shells, at least 120 millimeter, 152 millimeter. I saw those bridges hit with things like Tochka U missile, and they were still standing with like big hole in the middle, but they were still standing because human knows how to build bridges, unfortunately, or fortunately, I don't know. Do you think FSB officers will lose their heads? Sarah, I think that most probably those officers will be sent to like Pokrovsk direction or something like that. That is usually the best punishment that they can expect. And what else do we have there in the chat, guys? You can ask your questions. Here, this one is very, very interesting. Anyone counted how much money it costed Russia, those 41 bombers? So according to the most recent estimates, Russia lost between $7 and $8 billion in a single day due to this today's attack. So between $7 and $8 billion. That is huge, but what's most important is that it's huge in military terms, in terms of military equipment that will not be killing Ukrainian civilians anymore, which is great. What Ukraine conducted, the username Black Cobra says, is a terrorist attack. Absolutely, absolutely. And what Russia conducts is like gestures of goodwill and democracy and all the best values that you can imagine.
Yeah, you know, that is a typical story of perfect Ukrainian attack on peaceful Russian strategic bombers, just standing around on the airbase and minding their business. just preparing for the next terrorist attack on Ukrainian hospitals, kindergartens, schools, etc. And then very bad Ukrainian drones appeared out of nowhere and destroyed these peaceful birdies. Oh my gosh, we need more of that stuff. By the way, I have recently scrolled through the sources, and we have interesting commentaries. First, on Russian Telegram channels, and I love being subscribed to Russian Telegram channels, which is a toxic reading, but sometimes you need to know what your enemy writes. And first, like for the first several hours, they were silent. They were messaging nothing about it. Then they started to demand a nuclear strike on Ukraine, etc. Typical warmongering. But now they report on something else. They report on the next wave of attack, explosions in Kursk, Lipetsk, etc. And they even post videos. And I can tell you that fixed wing drone attack on Russia with military plants, etc., is really big, and that looks really good. But what is very interesting as well, that I can share with you some rumors about this preparation of this drone attack on Russian military bases. And one of rumors we have already discussed, that the Ukrainians used the existing smuggling channels via Kazakhstan to bring drones to Russia, and Russians just ignored it because they believe that it's a normal sanctions evasion route. But now, like, another rumor is, and I don't know if it's true or not, but it is definitely fun to discuss and to mention, is that the Ukrainians, in a very sarcastic way, funded this operation by Russian donations. That the Ukrainians allegedly have started several campaigns in Russia to fund drones which would be sent to Ukraine to kill Ukrainians. And the Russians donated for these drones. And for this money, they have funded this assembly point in Chelyabinsk, where they have assembled drones for the attack on the Russian strategic aviation. If it is true, and I can imagine, knowing the Ukrainian way of getting to money from the most dirty Russian sources, because in Ukraine there are special divisions of those hackers and those like phone callers, prankers, who target explicitly Russia's criminal terrorist elites, like Russian judges, Russian governors, Russian politicians, Russian professors in military academies, etc. Those people who just get rich on bribes and on everything, and who are totally supporters of Vladimir Putin and enemies of Ukraine. And they call them, they pretend to be like FSB officer and say, yes, Mr. Ivanov, we know that your account has been compromised. You need to urgently transfer your money to some safe account, etc. And then they transfer this money, and this money goes to fund Ukraine. And the last time there was like a Moscow judge, famous for prosecuting people against criticism against Vladimir Putin, who was like stripped by, I don't know, like several millions of euro, and etc. etc. It's brilliant. It's just brilliant. You just get access to money from the pockets of people who are criminals, who deserve to be imprisoned. But until you cannot imprison them, you can take their money and use it for a good cause. And I will not be surprised if, in this case, the Ukrainians did the same, and it's just brilliant.
Yeah, I agree on that. We have several more questions from our dear viewers and our family. If such an ingenious attack can be carried out, can the Ukrainian military get a fighting force behind the lines somewhere in the east and trap the Zs? it's a different sort of operation because this operation was conducted by the Security Service of Ukraine. It involved a lot of basically spies, secret agents operating on the Russian territory. And we know that Security Service of Ukraine, as well as the main intelligence directorate of Ukraine, they conduct all sorts of operations that involve operating on the enemy territory, deep in the enemy rear, and eliminating different targets, like the Russian general that was recently eliminated using a scooter, another one that was, I don't know, his car malfunctioned, it decided to self-destruct, and many others. So Ukrainians are really, really good at that. I remember before the full-scale Russian invasion, there were several cases of assassinations of Ukrainian officers, actually. There were car bombs, there were shootings and stuff like that. But we can see that now Russia is shaking. It's absolutely shaking. Can you just imagine the look on Putin's face when they showed him how the operation was carried out? I would pay to see him the second he saw the photos of operation. My dear friend Anton, I would say that not only he saw the photos of the operation, he could also enjoy the full HD videos delivered by the Security Service of Ukraine. Jacob says explosions in Kursk recently. Yeah, I'm monitoring that as well. I can see that there is a lot of them at this very moment. So for those who joined us a bit later, guys, at this very moment, I will show this photo again. There is a massive attack of UFOs, also known as Ukrainian flying objects, coming to Russia from, surprisingly, Ukrainian territory. And those drones are targeting Russian oblasts like Lipetsk, Tula, Voronezh, Rostov, Bryansk, Kursk, Moscow Oblast, and Belgorod. The airfield in Lipetsk is suffering at this very moment. There's multiple explosions. What else did I want to show, but I forgot. I wanted to show something really, really cringy. Something really cringy, my friends. Do you remember that cringy Russian parade on the 9th of May, on the Victory Day, Victorgy Day? So I found a video that you guys in the chat most probably have already seen. I think majority of you have not. And on this footage, you can see, let me just show it here somewhere. Yeah, so on this footage, you can see this incredible town. You may ask yourself, like, what the hell is that? So this is a Russian parade for the Victory Day. You might think that this is somewhere in like Bakhmut or Avdiivka on the Russia-occupied territory. There is literally a Victory Day parade. I'm telling you, there's like this music playing, the guys marching with the red flag. Guys, this is not Bakhmut, and this town has never been bombed in its entire history because this is in Magadan. This is the town of Kolyma, and this is generally how it looks like. I'm not sure if it's the central street of Kolyma because this parade takes place in the well, apparently one of the central streets the guys are celebrating. But this is how it looks like. It's not Bratislava, Rent. It isn't. It's Kolyma. This is Russian.
I tell you, I've been to Magadan. I've been to Magadan once, and I was traveling there around. And I need to say it hasn't changed a lot since that time.
Something never changes in Russia. I'm not sure if it's like poverty or corruption or I don't know. But I really, really hope you enjoyed this video, my dear friends, because I personally do enjoy. This is what you want to know about Russian atrociousness, because when they come from there to civilized places, I'm not even mentioning like Italy or like Germany. I'm talking about Bucha, Hostomel, Irpin, you know, places where civilized people live their ordinary and middle class lives. They ask themselves a question. First of all, why do they live like shit? And second of all, who let those Ukrainians, who allowed those Ukrainians to live so well? You know, because this insanity, my dear friends, literally, it's like, you know, I when I look at this, I feel as if I'm watching like some kind of World War II movie that was colorized
Or
using
a
AI.
sarcastic, like some dark comedy. Like I would say, it could be a comedy of absurd. And people would say, "Oh, that is like such an art house, like people marching with their flags in front of the empty buildings. That is definitely a sarcastic representation of reality. It never happens in real life. It's just the artist, the film director, has decided to sharpen the reality. No, it's daily life in Russia. It's daily life in Russia, and
Yeah,
that is like really the thing which many people ignore. This Magadan area is it is practically the shore of the Pacific Ocean. Like Magadan doesn't lay directly on the Pacific; it's the Sea of Okhotsk, but the Sea of Okhotsk is a part of the Pacific Ocean. So it's pretty far. I don't know, like 6,000, 7,000 kilometers from Ukraine. And I'm pretty sure, like these people who live in these conditions without asphalt, without anything, with terrible roads, terrible houses, and poverty, etc., they they don't have any other like topic to address, to be proud of, to use as the source of their power, let me say, as this war against Ukraine and the alleged war against the what they call the collective West. So just imagine how delusional these people should be to say, I don't care if I have running water, I don't have. I don't care if my kids go into normal school. No. I don't care if my roads are safe. I don't care if my food is safe. I don't care anything about. The only thing I care about that a country 7,000 kilometers from my home gets bombed into Stone Age. That makes me happy. That makes me like feel safe. That is what my only desire is. It is not just delusional, it is sick. It's completely sick. And that is what we need to understand about their motivations and their, let me say, and their hierarchy of values. And when you said this saying, who has allowed you to live such a good life, it is indeed it is a popular saying, and in Ukraine there was indeed a graffiti found left by Russian soldier in one of schools in a city. I think it was in Irpin, close to Kiev, when the Russian soldiers left a graffiti. Who has allowed you to live such a good life? And I think it is a quintessence of Russia's way of thinking to the neighbors. First, they believe that someone may allow people to improve their life. that it is something you need to get permission for, to paint your house, to clean your yard, to work hard, to save money, to buy a car, to send your children to a good school, to make some beautiful things in your garden, in your house, to clean your windows, etc. You need to get allowed to do it. And the second thing is, when you see something beautiful, you want to smear it. You want to destroy it, because you will not allow anyone to enjoy simple things like safe streets, clean area, friendly people, good food, strong families, respect, etc. No, that's what makes Russians crazy. And that is what practically this war is about, because the very existence of Ukraine as an independent, happy nation was a threat for Russia.
I can say the same about Europe, by the way. The reason they hate Europe is because Europe is wealthy, is safe, and those who say that Europe is not safe, guys, don't compare it to Russia, okay? To places like that we have just seen on the screens. And it's mind-boggling. Sergei, this town of Kolyma, it's on the seashore, basically, right?
Kolyma is an area. Kolyma is an area. It is like, it's not a city. It is like a region.
Yeah.
Which is more or less identical with the Magadan Oblast. Like, Magadan is a seaport on the Sea of Okhotsk, and from Magadan you have practically one road which goes northeast. I've been there like 25 years ago. Gosh. There is a city of Stikolny, and there is this airport of Magadan, and there are like some gold mines and gold refineries. And there is like a crazy thing, because the airport of Magadan is located about like 40-50 kilometers north east from the city, and directly at the airport there is a penalty colony, like an open air prison. And just imagine, and people serve their sentence there. First, it is like unhuman conditions, even for those who are free, because it's a polar night, it's cold, it is the Sea of Azov is covered with ice early May, so they need icebreakers to clean the way to Magadan. And then you are in this prison, and you see every day planes starting and landing over your head. And I think that is like that. The place was not selected with an idea to additionally torture prisoners with this view, but after all, I think that the Russian guards liked the idea when they have realized it. And I pretty much understand the whole context of those recruitments of Russian prisoners, because Russian prison is even more brutal than Russian society. And then these people were offered a wonderful adventure to go to Ukraine, to kill people, to torture people, to rape people, to rob people, to do whatever you want, and to get awarded for that. And of course, for them, it was an opportunity of their life. You go to another country, to a warmer climate, you do the things you like to do, all connected to violence, and you will not be punished for that, but promoted. So this is the system which stimulates the worst instincts in any person, and which makes people the worst version of themselves. And Magadan, like the whole area, this Kolyma area, the Magadan Oblast now, It was pretty much uninhabited until the middle of 20th century. And then when gold was found there, and Stalin resettled the penalty colonies there and practically colonized the whole territory with prisoners guarded by the NKVD. And when you read, like, I highly recommend to everyone to find a book by a Soviet writer, Shalamov, which is named Kolyma Stories, or Kolinsky Рассказы. And he served his sentence exactly in the area. And he wrote short stories about the life there. They have never been published during the Soviet Union. And just to imagine how dark they were, that Shalamov said that Solzhenitsyn was the one who wrote funny stories which try to present reality in a pink way. So for Solzhenitsyn, Shalamov was a one who uses too dark colors to paint the reality. And for Shalamov, Solzhenitsyn was one who tried to spread pink lies about the penalty colonies. I highly recommend to read it, like short stories about that brutality. And now you can imagine that these all towns, why they are so like half lost, because there could be no economy there without a constant supply of prisoners, of slaves, practically, because the whole gold production, the whole construction production was based on forced labor. You don't have forced labor, you don't have enough inhabitants, you don't have enough economy, your houses get decayed, your roads get decayed. That's it. That's it. That's what will happen practically to pretty many Russian cities who were built by the state based on the concept of either military power or the need to get access to some resources which were absolutely unrealistic to get economic ways, but were realistic to get with forced labor.
There's a commentary while we were talking. Our dear friends were enjoying the beautiful cityscape of this town in Kolyma, Magadan Oblast, and I decided to show the longer video. And Patricia says Russian cities look like Bangladesh or India. Fun fact, Patricia, is that more people live in Bangladesh than in Russia, for reasons.
And Bangladesh has never annexed a neighboring country.
Yeah.
And just think about it, like if you compare Russia to Japan, Japan has more or less the same population like Russia. But compare the square of Russia and Japan, and the technological development and the level of life. And Japan also had that weird ideas of expanding and creating an empire and enslaving neighboring nations. Then they have been beaten, and they have never tried it after that. And I think they will never be, or they will never do. But after all, Japan is now having the same size of population, absolutely uncomparably smaller territory. They have an uncomparably higher level of economy, technology. They're a peaceful nation. Yes, they have some unsolved disputes with their neighbors, like Korea, for example. And one can say, yes, Japan should admit crimes from the World War II. They have not done enough, etc. But compare that to Russia, what Russia is doing, and he will say, just forget what Japan is doing with this military temple. Let them go. Let the Japanese prime minister go once in a year to that temple and do whatever he or she wants, because compared to Russia, which attacks neighboring countries, annexes territories, kills thousands of people, etc., uncomparable. So in Russia's way of life and in trying to achieve what the Russians call greatness, величие, their idea of greatness is based only and solely on the ability to impose violence on people, institutions, groups of people, or nations. And they have really not changed since centuries. Exactly as in the 18th century, Russian emperor, self-proclaimed emperor Peter I, has developed this concept of greatness and never-ending borders of Russia. Exactly the same concept we observe now in Vladimir Putin's Russia. And they have mysteriously carried on this ideology from the empire to the communism regime, and then to a capitalistic pseudo-democracy and kleptocratic regime of Vladimir Putin. And it's not about corruption. It's not about that they steal or they lie, like Navalny says, remove corruption, Russia will be great. No, it will not. Because the main component of their national ideology is violence, not corruption, not greed, not stealing, not something like that. Violence, pure violence. And that's what they're doing.
I agree. It became one. I would say the primary, not even agenda, basically like part of their culture. I would say, corruption and violence. That is, guys, don't ever underestimate West. Okay, never do that, because look at countries that were rebuilt, rebuilt by Western civilization. We're talking about Western Germany after the World War II. Look at Germany today. Look at Japan again. Look at places that were occupied or rebuilt by Russia. Eastern Germany cannot be compared. What else? Abkhazia, South Ossetia, the places that were amazing spots for like resorts for rest during the Soviet Union times. People would go there, like whole families would go there to take a rest at the seaside. And Abkhazia now turned into a freaking Pripyat, only, much bigger because it's a whole region. Same with South Ossetia. Guys, just Google it, okay? Everything looks like Kolyma. The Russian agenda is to go to a peaceful, beautiful place, civilized place, and basically turn it into a Kolyma. The other day I heard this rumor that there is this very, very dangerous Russian missile called Sysrань. When it hits some place, it doesn't destroy it; it turns it into Sysrань. If it hits, for example, some European place like London, okay, there is a big chance that it turns it into a fucking Sysrань. And this is the essence of the Russian culture, or rather its absence. They are not Neanderthals. They are that is the name of our guest. Thank you so much, because the other day I watched the documentary on Neanderthals. They were much superior race than what Russians are, I would say. Oh my god, I'm like racism on my channel. Sorry, I have right to say that.
Who is drinking the whiskey here?
Yeah. Racism on my channel. Oh my god, how can you say that about Russians?
Yeah, but
I
now
have rights. I'm a Ukrainian.
I think we come to a very important moment. And as a person who was born in Russia and socialized in Russia, I can add on that, I guess. That is the very essence, because Russia and being a Russian is not belonging to some ethnic group or some supra-ethnic group, which used to be called a race in the 19th century. Now there are different names for that. But it's not what you inherit in your biology. It's not what describes how you will look like, what will be the tone of your skin, what will be the color of your eyes, or the form of your, I don't know, the DNA predestinated chances to get that or that medical condition. No, because Russia is the last multinational empire, the last in the world. And Russia is not an ethnic concept. Russia is a political concept. Russia is an imperialist concept. That's why Russian state absorbs and digests different people from different ethnic and even national groups. That's why there are so many Ukrainians in Russian elites and Russian military. That's why there are people from like Valentina Matvienko, the head of the Council of the Federation, is an ethnic Ukrainian, and her name is typical Ukrainian, and she is from Western Ukraine. Or they have like Estonians, like Vaino, the head of presidential administration. They have Tuvians like Shoigu, the former minister of defense. They have Armenians like Lavrov. They have Chechens like Surkov, and. So it's not about the ethnic heritage. It's, of course, in Russia they have a hierarchy of ethnic groups. They have their concept of whiteness, which is not identical to the Western concept of whiteness, but still they have it. And if you fail
I
seriously,
will interrupt you just for a second. When they call themselves White Russians, that literally gives me so much giggle, because usually when they talk about being White Russian is, of course, in terms of being anti-Semitic and generally being against everybody else. One thing that makes Russians very, very I would say like their biggest feature is this absolute disrespect to everybody else.
yeah.
They don't give a damn. They even though they were fighting against Nazism, but at the same time they have this despise and disrespect towards
I
everyone else.
I don't think they were fighting against the Nazis. They were pretty much fine with the Nazis until Hitler has attacked them in 1941. They were fighting against a country which suddenly appeared to be their military adversary. The problem for the Russians or for Muscovites has never been the Nazism itself. In the Soviet Union, for example, Jews have been discriminated. There were jobs banned for the Jews. Stalin planned a mass deportation of Jews to Siberia, etc. So it was not about the Nazis which they were opposing. It was about the Hitler's Reich, which they saw to be their military and economically maybe adversary. But coming back to my point, so when being a Russian is not an ethnic quality, but a political one. You cannot be racist when you criticize Russia, because you can be anyone and a Russian. You can be a person of so-called white heritage, Asian, or other heritage, and you're still Russian because you share this Russian ideology. And exactly as you can turn into Russian, like, for example, those Ukrainians who have decided to fight for Moscow, you can quit being Russian, and you cannot quit your ethnic heritage. You can reject it, you can say, I don't like it, etc., but you can never really quit it. But you can quit being Russian, because being Russian is a political choice. It's not what is prescribed in you. That's why those who say that Russophobia is a form of racism, no, it is not. It is a form of criticism against a concept of political style of life, a compendium of political views.
I agree on that. One thing that I completely agree with you is that you cannot be racist by criticizing Russians, because Russianism has no borders. Russianism is actually a culture / ideology that doesn't have any specific race or nation in its core, because we can see this spreading. Actually, we can see it spreading towards some like ethnic Americans, like I don't know, Douglas McGregor, for example, or Tucker Carlson or Tim Pool. Those guys, they are not ethnic Russians. They don't really have Russian roots, as far as I understand. But this is something that spreads. Unfortunately, it spreads on people like Orban. It spreads on people like Fico, because it's culture / ideology. It's a culture / ideology of corruption and violence. And there was a good question, by the way, from Jeff Alley, who says right-wing media in the United States paint Zelensky as a corrupt leader like Putin. What do the Ukrainian people think? And this is a very good topic. First of all, according to the transparency.org, Ukraine is 40 positions higher in terms of transparency than Russia. Russia is 40 positions higher in terms of corruption than Ukraine. So we're already talking about like a quarter of countries almost. Not quarter, but like 25%. Another thing is Ukraine's corruption that we were fighting since early 90s was caused by pro-Russian governments that were ruling Ukraine. Literally that. The best things that Russia and pro-Russian forces ever brought to Ukraine was literally that, violence and corruption. And we are fighting against that. We're trying to clear Ukraine's culture out of this shit, because we don't need it. And I really, really hope that our European partners will also think about it, because this is something they don't need. We are one big family, civilized family, sharing the same continent, and we don't need worst practices. We need best practices. So that is according to Transparency.org. Russia is 40 positions higher than Ukraine in terms of corruption. At this very point, according to other sources, according to basically historical sources, Ukraine has the same level of corruption as Poland, Slovakia, or Romania before joining European Union. So it's not like Ukraine is the most corrupt country in Europe. Basically, it's Russia. And speaking of cases of corruption in Ukraine, like, of course, we have them. And of course, this is something that we are fighting against. And this is something that you would rarely see in Russia, because, first of all, Russia is ruled 25 years by Putin. So even from this standpoint, you cannot compare Zelensky to Putin. It's like two different things. Putin is probably the wealthiest man on earth at this very point. Again, you cannot compare things. And what else? Oh my God, I can talk about it forever. But unfortunately, my dear friends, I need to call it a night very, very soon, because it's actually a night in Berlin, and also in Ukraine it's past 1 a.m. Maybe I will dedicate.
And tomorrow is a working day.
Yeah.
Don't forget it.
Absolutely. But I would also like to remind you, my dear friends, that today Ukraine conducted an insanely amazing strike on Russian air bases, improving 41 Russian bomber They will not be flying anymore. And also, the recent update is that in Voronezh Oblast, the Ukrainian flying objects were noticed near Borisoglepsk air base, where Russian Terrorist Federation is parking its jet fighters. There are already explosions. This is good. So we will have a very interesting night. I will go straight to kitchen and get myself something really, really good. You know, the other day, before we talk about drones, the other day, my good friend Angelika Bayer returned from Bavaria, and she brought me all sorts of Bavarian meat. She brought me pork. She brought me smoked pork. She brought me. She called names that I cannot pronounce in German, like venison, like. My God, you name it. Like the meat that looks like holodets, but it's not, and you can put it on the bread with like garlic or onion. I will show you pictures next time. Okay. Now, speaking of drones, we are also fundraising for the drones for my brigade to save lives of my guys. 4th Operative Brigade of the National Guard, Rubizh, the guys that were fighting for Hostomel, for Bakhmut, Rubizhny, Severodonetsk, Lysychansk, Chasiv Yar, Liman, and other places. And not only that, because we were there basically before the full-scale Russian invasion since 2015, 2016, our first deployments started, and we were basically everywhere along along the old and new front lines on this war. So if you want to help my guys, please check out the description. You can help using the PayPal link and also the direct bank transfer. The direct bank transfer will send your money to the account of the European Resilience Initiative Center, which is foundation that helps us fundraise for the drones to save lives of Ukrainian defenders. And to those who already did that, thank you very much, guys. This is amazing. What I can say, you will never stop surprising me and motivating me, of course. So, Sergey, do you have anything to say to our dear viewers?
Well, I have only one thing to add. This amazing drone is exactly the kind of drones we are supplying to the 4th Rubizh Brigade of the National Guard, Andrii's Brigade. And the soldiers need it. This is 10-inch drone which can fly all possible missions, a very complicated one, and can also be successful and effective against Russian electronic warfare. So it can fly where other drones cannot fly because of the good composition and reliable radio ports. So I never say that I know better what kind of drones the soldiers need. We always ask the soldiers what drones they need, and we produce these kind of drones for them. And when Rubizh says they need 1,000 of our drones, I trust them, and I'm happy to provide them with these 1,000 drones. And it's up to you if you want to donate for that and know, yeah, my drones are flying with Rubizh, and Rubizh is the brigade with a fantastic patch, fantastic logo. And you have seen Prince Harry's photographs with a Ukrainian patch on his shoulder, with a trident looking like a NATO star. Then you have seen Rubizh patch. And if Prince Harry wears this patch proudly, then maybe this brigade is really very special, and you can just be a part of the history of this brigade, donating drones for this brigade. So please donate, PayPal and bank in the description of this video, and be sure that your donation will help to save Ukrainian lives.
Yeah, absolutely. I can say that, the reason the NATO cross is on the patch of my brigade is that it was the core of our ideology. It was basically integration with the best practices, with the best armies working together, acquiring the best experience of the best. And this is what we built all of our idea on. And we had numerous military exercises in Yavoriv together with our colleagues from NATO during the Rapid Trident military exercises. And those were crazy times. But, you know, we realized that if you are fighting against this huge Soviet army that Russia really is, you gotta be innovative, you gotta think out of the box, and you gotta be the best, and use the best practices that only your friends from other countries can provide, because you cannot survive on your own. You gotta be always one step ahead of your enemies, and have many, many friends. And with that, my dear friends, I would like to say big thanks to everyone who watched our stream, to everyone who supports my brigade, and also to all the dear members of my channel. Thank you so much for helping me to keep it running. Big thanks to our moderators, and of course big thanks to you, Sergey. Always a pleasure to have you on my channel, and especially on days like this when we can share our emotions from such great events that took place today in the Terrorist Federation. Thank you so much for your experience, your expertise, and also your help that you provide to my brigade as well. This is absolutely amazing. Dear
Thank
friends,
you so much.
Dear friends, we'll see you later. Operator Starsky, Sergey Sumlenny. Have a great, I don't know, it's not a weekend anymore, but have a great work week since tomorrow. And don't forget to have something tasty today. We all deserve that. And with that, I'll see you next time. Be safe, and Slava Ukraini!
Героям слава!